your friend Claude, here with cousin Adam, and this is episode 10 of WAMCast.
Number 10. It's going to be a big one, so everybody sit down, relax. If you're working, just don't even bother working. Just sit here and listen to what we got to say, and it's going to be awesome, just so you know.
And we will provide complimentary vomit bags for anybody who has a weak stomach.
Well, I didn't really plan on talking about anything too terrible, so...
Well, no, it was more of a reference to it's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah, if you get car sick easily, we suggest you listen to a different podcast. That really doesn't go hand in hand. I don't know. We're just saying stuff.
Hyperbole,
well,
yay.
Yay! I know, it's good stuff. So we want to kind of do it a little bit different. Typically, the last few episodes, as you know, we've been talking about problems in Claude World, which is fine. We like to talk about our problems. But we didn't. I don't really typically have a lot of problems, so I did want to bring something up that was funny. It's been kind of a hot button issue all of a sudden for some reason up in the area of New York State where I live. I live in the Albany capital region. And, of course, I made the mistake of turning on the local news the other night, which is just terrible to begin with. But I guess a big thing going on right now is that Albany has made it legal. They're going to start putting up traffic cams, or red light cameras, they call it, to catch basically people running red lights. And it basically just takes a picture of your license plate and they send you a ticket in the mail. And for some reason, people are in some kind of furor over it. I'm not really sure why. A lot of people are, they're siding on the side of the law, saying, hey, if you break a law, you deserve to get a ticket. You deserve to get caught. Some people are saying, well, this isn't really that fair because the police don't really, enforce it that much anyway. And it's like, well, they should be enforcing it. So there's all sorts of arguments that people are having. And of course, some people are saying, well, what about people that don't know about the traffic cams? Should there be like a leniency period? Like if you get caught on it, they just send you a warning and say, hey, you were caught on a traffic cam. There's just a whole bunch of stuff going on. And apparently it's big enough that they're having like, quote unquote town hall meetings about it. Have you had any experience with a traffic cam or know about any where there are any?
I do not. I do not drive. I do not even really know of anywhere remotely near here that has them. I'm sure there are some. But I did have a chance to quickly glance at some information about them, and I feel like I'm kind of torn on it because I feel like anything that helps make traffic regulations more enforced and more widely followed, I'm always in favor of. However, anything that falls under the category of state surveillance, I'm always against.
Right.
So this issue kind of combines them both. One of the things I read said that, at least in Florida anyway, they were pitched as quote-unquote safety devices. And what they have turned into, it's being called a backdoor tax increase because of all the money that the state collects in fines. So, I mean, I'm sure, as you said, there's kind of positives and negatives, but yeah, I don't really know. I think that, I guess my opposition to surveillance maybe edges out the other side of it for this a little bit.
Yeah, I kind of feel the only other place that I remember living that had any kind of traffic cameras was when I lived in Virginia. I was in the Navy. I lived the Navy base in Virginia is in Norfolk. The greater Norfolk, Virginia area consists of some other major cities. There's like Hampton, Virginia, Newport News, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Virginia, and then Norfolk. So basically this whole area is called the Hampton Roads area. And the same thing happened. They put in traffic cameras and people, made a stink about it. They hated it and they thought it was unfair. And I'm like, well, and I think when it comes to the traffic safety side issue of it, it's got to be there has to be some red line drawn? When
Right.
are you considered to be running a red light? Because sometimes I hear people getting pulled over for running yellow lights, saying that you're supposed to stop for a yellow light. But when I was learning how to drive, I was told that if you're driving, you come to a yellow light. If you have the time and distance to stop, then you would start to slow down so that you'll stop for the red light. If it's
Right.
not safe for you to do so, you just continue through the yellow light and then obviously stop at a red light.
Right.
So, I mean, you have to draw a line to begin with, one, to say, okay, if you run a yellow light, you're not going to get caught. I mean, it has to be red when you drive through the intersection. I get it, okay? But, like you said, it comes down to the state surveillance side of it. Is this just a clever ruse to say, yeah, we're going to put in traffic cameras and we're basically just going to spy on you now?
Yeah.
Or is that what they're going to do? Like, where's the oversight? Where's the regulation here?
Right.
Like that's the question I would bring up. I'm not gonna, I wouldn't even really care. I'm like, oh, I ran a red light, I get a ticket. That's my fault because I'm not being safe.
Right.
But then let's put it this way: how many times do you think people speed in their car when they drive over the speed limit and no one catches them doing it?
Right.
I mean, is that really unsafe? It depends. It really does. If the traffic on the highway, the flow of traffic is going 75 and you're driving 65, you're basically obstructing the flow of traffic because you're not moving with the pack, so to speak. So, like, does this pack mentality thing? I mean, obviously with red lights, it's not the same thing, but it's just. I mean, if you go 1 mile over the speed limit, you are technically breaking the law. So, and cops don't pull people over for going 69 and a 65, So
Usually.
there's obviously some kind of leeway. Yeah, usually. And it depends on, the time of the month because, yes, cops do have quotas as much as they say they don't. They do have quotas to fill their tickets. So usually the end of the month is when they're out, looking for people if they haven't filled their quota. But whatever. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it is controversial. And I think it comes down to the surveillance side of it as well. If you're more on the civil liberties conspiracy side of things, like, oh, they're going to be watching me the whole time. Now, they're not going to have cameras pointing into your house, I hope. But,
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess that's maybe the beginning of the issue. There is, does it start with this and continue on?
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
that's the thing, too, is if you're caught doing something else on a traffic camera, is that going to be admissible in court as
Right.
evidence? Like, oh, he ran a red light. Well, I saw him knock over a mailbox and drive away on the traffic camera. You know what I mean? Is that gonna be hold up in court? I mean, it should, I guess, but I mean, and there's so many other issues that are raised by it. So I just thought it was an interesting topic to bring up because they're making a big deal about it here. I think a lot of people, that's what we do. We talk about the issue, but I think a lot of people are bringing up issues that you wouldn't really think they would be bringing up, but they are. And there's a lot of stuff going on with that. So.
Well, everything is always more complex than face value would lead you to believe.
Yeah.
Where exactly does it stand in your area right now, or is it still being debated?
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, on the news report, they said they are going to install them. That is a done deal. But it's a lot of these like other questions, like how are we going to deal with this? How are we going to deal with that? Like they're going in, but like I said, are you going to give people, or like people were bringing up, like, are we going to give people like a little bit of leeway that don't know about them and just say, hey, we caught you, don't do it again. And I guess like another thing they said, they were taking bids on what company was going to do it. I'm like, yeah, so I'm sure they're going to spend a whole, like, just a ton of their budget. I don't think it's a very big budget item at the time because I don't know if they're doing it at like every road, and I'm not sure what part of the zone they're doing it. As far as I know, it's just in Albany, like the actual city limits right now.
Right.
But it could spill out. I mean, I live in a pretty big region up here, so. But yeah, as far as I know, they are going in. They're just deciding on who's going to get the contract. These other little minor details. So,
Right.
like it or not, they're going in, I guess. So,
Interesting.
yep.
Well, it's just yet another developing story, I guess.
Yep. Speaking of other developing stories, saw a funny story. I believe it was If You Only Knew News. Have you heard of this website? They
No.
run a lot of stuff. They're kind of addicted, or they're linked with like addicting info, and like Facebook and other people run their stories. Came across a weird story about this. I believe it's called the Upstate New York Towns Association. They kind of run in your neck of the woods where you grew up, down in the Binghamton area. They call that the Southern Tier, if I remember correctly, like Elmira, Binghamton, all
Yep.
those places. Is that right?
Yeah.
I guess there was some hinting at that there was about 15 towns that were a part of this association. A couple off the top of my head I remember are like Candor, Kirkwood, Conklin, the ones I mentioned before. They were talking about seceding into Pennsylvania. And the reason why the rumor is because they are actually sitting on a really large shale deposit, which is where a lot of natural gas occurs, and of course, the controversial practice of fracking to extract this natural gas from the shale deposit basically has been outlawed at the moment. So, Albany's not letting them drill, and I guess that they were one of the areas that were getting a bid for a casino because New York is making casinos legal, and they're actually, as far as I know, they're putting one up here in Saratoga to the racetrack. But I guess the southern tier areas were in the bid for one, and they're not going to get it. So they're basically throwing a hissy fit that they're not getting, a piece of the pie, if you will. And they were looking at like the taxes and stuff in Pennsylvania. And there was one news report they ran where some guy was whining about how the people in Pennsylvania, you could see them buying their new snowmobiles and their ATVs and getting siding on their houses. And, we don't have anything here, which is kind of, I say he was whining about it. But I mean, the southern tier actually, I think, has been one of the areas that's still struggling in the state to recover from what happened with the recession and stuff like that. Now, those towns seceding into Pennsylvania is going to be next to impossible. Pennsylvania government's going to have to approve it. The New York government's going to have to approve it. There's no way New York government's going to approve it. Right. And I think what happened, I did go to their website and they did release a press statement about this story, and they said it came up because one of the state senators from the area sent out a survey to his constituents, and he said, just as one question on the survey was, how would you feel about seceding into Pennsylvania or something like that? So it just blew up like after that, like it went viral, if you will, that they're thinking about seceding. So I think it kind of got blown out of proportion a little bit, but that's basically the story as I have seen it. Any thoughts on that?
It sounds like nonsense. It sounds like, people that are in an area that is, considered basically as good as being in Pennsylvania anyway, that far south in the state. At least the upstate. Like, New York is geographically weird. Like, a lot of people think of, like, where we grew up in central New York, that's sort of downstate. But, to everybody else, I guess, downstate is the greater Manhattan area. But yeah, I'm 100% against fracking. There's a debate, but in my mind, the debate is non-existent. And so New York has decided, thankfully, against it. And so these are people that are probably ill-informed and geographically closer to an area where they engage in it, and they see the temporary superficial gains that their neighbors are getting from engaging in this ridiculous practice, and they want to cut because people are selfish and greedy and materialistic, and they don't realize that they'd be trading a lifetime of health and resource possibilities for a few fleeting, $1,000 or whatever it is. Yeah, I think they're idiots. I'm just gonna come out and say it. I think it's retarded, and hopefully it will kind of die out as quickly as it became an issue.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not clean energy at all.
No.
When they talk about like natural gas, I mean, natural gas that you obtain not from fracking, it is a cleaner, cheaper delivery system than a lot of other things. But just the act of fracking, and they call it, to extract this natural gas underneath the ground, it's a terrible pollutant. I mean, there's so many environmental hazards that come out from extracting it, and the thing is, it's getting into people's water supplies, into like watersheds and stuff. I mean, they could be fracking 20 miles away, but then all of a sudden you get these toxins into your water supply, and you don't even know it because you have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
I mean, you're right. To me, there's no debate either. Like, it's not acceptable whatsoever. And I think it's we need to move on from fossil fuels and all these like dangerous, environmentally unsafe practices. So yeah, for them to say that that's like a reason for seceding, that's just ill-informed and naive. Really, it's stupid. So, but yeah, so I don't really know how how much fruition this the cessation attempt's going to be, but yeah, I don't know.
Seems like every few years is another story somewhere else around the country that is threatening to secede or trying to form a
Mm.
movement to get it done, and they always end up kind of just fizzling out. So I guess it's New York's turn this year.
Yeah, right.
Well,
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I wanted to bring up about that. Just some weird news stories from our lovely home state. So, yeah, some entertainment topics you want to bring up there? Yeah, yeah.
I do, in fact. Wish I had 10 of them, but I don't. Just to continue to weave the thread between episodes here and tie everything all together. We very quickly mentioned in an earlier episode the movie Creed. Essentially, it's a Rocky spinoff focusing on Apollo Creed's son's quest to become a boxer. Um, Today, they officially released the plot synopsis for that film, and it is as follows. So basically, see, I don't understand it entirely based on what they're saying. So the movie's still going to be called Creed, but the character in question is his name is Adonis Johnson, not Creed. So I guess he was adopted or something. They're saying that this kid was born somehow after Apollo died, but I don't remember Apollo's wife being pregnant in Rocky 4.
Hmm.
So there's a little. Hopefully they kind of tie up some of these loose ends before final, you know, post production and everything. But since it's already filming in and around Philadelphia as we speak, I don't know if there's a good chance of those loose ends being corrected.
Yeah,
Um,
that's kind of weird.
yeah, but so I mean, in some ways, it also sounds like a rehash of Rocky Five, or like trying to atone for what is considered to be the worst of the Rocky series. Because it sounds like the same similar plot. This Adonis tracks down Rocky and asks him to be his trainer, and Rocky says no, he's out of the boxing world for good, and blah blah blah. But of course, gives in once he sees the same strength and determination reflected in Adonis that he had known in Apollo, and finally relents and agrees to train him. Um,
Hmm.
it says all the while the former champ, meaning Rocky, is battling an opponent more deadly than any he faced in the ring. Um, which I I don't know if we discussed this between us or whatever. I already have pretty much an inside look into what that is referring to, if that's not obvious.
Is it cancer? I think
Yeah,
it's cancer.
it's cancer. Because there was a Stallone. I think Stallone himself posted a picture of the last page of the script not too long ago on his Twitter account, and it referenced that. So I just if
It,
I thought it was like, I don't know, to throw people off or something, but it just seems like he's giving away everything before it's even released. I don't know.
I was gonna say last page of the script, maybe like first page of the script would be good.
Right.
Why do the last page? That's like,
I know. uh, but yeah, so then they wrap it up by saying, with Rocky in his corner, it isn't long before Adonis gets his own shot at the title. But can he develop not only the drive, but also the heart of a true fighter in time to get into the ring? I don't know.
or the eye of the tiger,
All
perhaps. I don't
right.
know.
Another
um, mm,
interesting piece, real quick, about this film is that the star, the person they cast to play Adonis Johnson, is the same person cast to play the Human Torch in the Fantastic Four reboot that we discussed on an earlier episode as well, and that is Michael B. Jordan. So
Michael B. Jordan. Yeah, I think that's a good pick at least. As far as I know, I mean, he's a pretty pretty good actor. And like I said, he was one of the people rumored to be in the new Star Wars movie too, but it ended up being John Boyega instead.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my first thought about what you said, with him deciding to train him because he sees the same drive and determination he did in Apollo Creed when he knew him. To me, that feels a little weak
Yeah.
because, I mean, the whole, aside from Rocky Five, I mean, I didn't really like that as much as the other ones either, and I might be jumping on the bandwagon, but I thought that was probably my least favorite. But it seems like there's some sort of, like, I wouldn't say like legitimate obstacle that he faces, because this is a movie we're talking about.
Right.
But I kind of feel like, in the first one, he's a nothing person who is leading like a miserable existence, and he gets one shot out of pure luck, and he makes the most of it. The second one, he starts to reap the benefits from that, but when it comes down to it, he's got to prove that he's legit. And then in the third one, he gets coddled, and he finds out he's getting coddled, and he lost the eye of the tiger, and he had to get it back. And then in the fourth one, it was the Russian, and it had those Cold War, connotations to it and everything. But even in Rocky Six, well, actually Rocky Six would be called Rocky Balboa. His reason for fighting was kind of a personal reason. I mean, if you watch the movie, it's kind of like he can't put to rest his demons about his wife dying and stuff like that, and the only way for him to lead a normal life is to fight again, and whatever it was. So I mean, I kind of feel like with going along the theme of the movies, like it's kind of weak. Like,
Yeah.
why would he be like, oh well, yeah, I don't want to do anything. Oh, you know what? I see that determination that your father used to have, or your grandfather, or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, it doesn't make it's weird. Like, I can't. Maybe it's different. Like, maybe that just is like a brief synopsis that we get, but to me, it sounds like it's a little kind of weak. But
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's also an indication of Stallone's own inability to kind of let Rocky be for very long.
yeah,
And again, I'm torn on it because I mean, I could watch a Rocky movie every year for the rest of my life. Yeah, a part of me anyway.
yeah,
Who doesn't want to see him, do it again one more time? But at some point, you do have to say it's just silly now. A lot of people, I mean, but in fairness, a lot of people have said that since at least 1982 when Rocky 3 came out.
yeah.
There was a joke in Airplane 2 about the Rocky sequels. I mean, there's been a joke in a lot of pop culture entertainment about Rocky sequels. There was a poster in one of the terminals it said, like, I don't even know what the Roman numeral equivalent was, like Rocky XXXVVVII. I just remember it was like a huge thing showing like a withered senior citizen in boxing trunks and gloves or whatever. The Simpsons have made fun of it. So it's been going on for years, but you know, the genesis of the story, I guess, I can see making sense. I can see this conceptually being a way to kind of carry on the Rocky vibe and the Rocky legacy in a more believable and, I don't know, I guess legitimate way. But at the same time, it just feels almost like rushed, almost very quickly and thoughtlessly put together. I cited those story inconsistencies. And throughout the Rocky series, there have been story inconsistencies, but none, I don't know, as numerous or as glaring as that, I feel. It's also interesting to note that they have Felicia Rashad playing Apollo Creed's widow in this, which, number one, is a totally different actress than who played her in Rocky 2 and Rocky 4, but also is obviously famous for being Claire Huxtable on The Cosby Show to most Americans.
Right.
I think it's interesting to note, however, that in this article they gave her the credit they associate with her in the parentheses when they list her name is a lifetime TV version of the movie Steel Magnolias. So to me, that says that this whole Bill Cosby scandal has really infiltrated everywhere. They're just like distancing themselves all across the board from this guy.
Yeah.
Um,
No comment on that, but well, I mean, at least with her, the at least the age and the timing works because I mean, she's probably getting up there in age too, to play that. Now, wait, you said just to recap because I might have missed it. You said that the Apollo is this his son or his grandson?
they're saying in the article it's his son.
Okay, because I thought and isn't didn't he have kids already
He
in
did.
Rocky 2?
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say because when he was, I remember the scene where he's reading all the hate mail about like, oh, how'd you let that chump go the distance with you, blah blah blah.
Yep.
I remember his kids like running around in the background, or maybe it was in the first one. I don't remember.
No, it was.
So
You're right.
okay, so I mean, yeah, they have kids. I know he has kids. So I mean,
And he
to have Michael P. Jordan play his kid doesn't seem right because he would be older than how old is Michael P. Jordan? He's only like what 20s, 30s, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think he's late 20s. I'll try to look it up while we talk about it.
Well, I guess maybe because like we were when did Rocky 2 come out? That came out in like 79,
yep,
right?
79. And like the kids in that movie, I think it was a boy and a girl, and they were already appeared to be like at least 4 and 5 by that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that would make if I was born in 79, that would make me 36. So they would be like in their 40s if they were kids in that movie. You know what I mean? So perhaps it doesn't take place in 2015. I don't know.
But like I said, I mean, that little blurb that they mention about him being born before after Apollo's death would suggest that his wife was pregnant in Rocky 4 when he dies.
Like right. Okay. So yeah, I forgot about that part.
Well, that's the latest she could be pregnant and have this kid be born without knowing Apollo. So like, I don't know. I mean, to me, that's what that's saying. And again, for anybody who wants to go back and watch it over again, I mean, I guess they can claim that it had just happened and she just found out or whatever. They want to revise history George Lucas style. Maybe they'll go back and do a special edition Rocky and give her a little computerized baby bump and like insert a cut scene where at Apollo's funeral they show her going, "You'll never know your son."
Well, I mean, I guess like you can. Well, I know that you can be pregnant for months without actually showing. But I mean, that's really something that they never really explored. Was like any kind of like lineage of Apollo Creed. I mean, really, Apollo Creed, his family wasn't really a big part of it. It was him. It was like the personality. It was the larger than life persona, of Apollo Creed. So I mean, I guess you could very easily say, yeah, she, just conceived, or like she just like she was a month pregnant or something when that happened. I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't think. I mean, it is comical what you said, like to digitally add like a baby bump and like she's waddling up there, like no, or something. But
right.
I mean, I guess it's not that far fetched, but it just seems kind of like what I don't know.
I mean, I guess why I'm nitpicking it so much is because I'm a I think we're both pretty diehard fans of the Rocky series.
Yeah.
And. Yeah. Honestly, who is this movie being made for?
Well, exactly. It's called Creed, for one, and who's making it? Yeah, you're right. I mean, like what? Because I have more questions than excitement, really. When I weigh it, it's kind of like, well, and I think like what you're saying, like you made the joke about the poster with like the old withered man in boxing trunks. Maybe he is rushing it because he feels like, I mean, Stallone's in his 60s. I mean, he's not going to be able to do what he does for very much longer, so maybe he is rushing it because he feels like he can't accurately portray the character of Rocky, very much anymore. Like he's getting to the point where he can't do it, so he wants to do as much as he possibly, because that really is Sylvester Stallone's legacy. That's what put him on the map to begin with, and that's like his baby. I mean, I was watching a behind the scenes thing about Rocky Balboa when he goes to film these movies in Philadelphia and he dresses up like Rocky. People walking down the street don't call him, "Hey, Mr. Stallone," or "Hey, Sylvester," or whatever. They're like, "Rocky!" They yell out Rocky, like they think he's Rocky.
Yeah, like it's real life there.
Yeah, it's real life, and it's weird. But I mean, I guess like if I was him, I'd want to do as much as I could with it too. I mean, that's like his bread and butter right there.
Yeah.
I could throw out as many cliches or whatever you want about this, but it's his baby. It's his bread
Well,
and butter. He
the
is
interesting
Rocky.
thing is too that if you watch the movies as a series, they also mirror his real life in a way.
Hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the state that the Rocky character is in each film is roughly comparable to the state that Stallone is in real life at the time of each film.
Right.
You watch him come from nothing in the first one, which is where he was at. He was
Mm.
down to his last dime. He sold his dog, to get by.
Yeah.
And then obviously towards the time of Rocky 4, when he's in a mansion and everything's all technology and success. I mean, Stallone's on top of the world at that point.
Hmm.
And obviously by the time of Rocky Balboa, he's just like Rocky, an older kind of. Obviously, Rocky's not an action hero, but the comparison is true. I feel like the character and the actor at that point, their best years are sort of behind them. Um, I don't know. I just feel like it matches up with the curve of Stallone's own life. So
Yeah.
it just seems weird to me, all the stuff I mentioned about this, but also when you factor in that he put out this movie Grudge Match with De Niro a year or two ago,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
basically, I mean, come on, he's playing Rocky again. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, sometimes there's some head scratchers involved, but that's where that thing stands. Just to clarify, Michael B. Jordan himself is 28. He was born in 87. So
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, I guess they're gonna try to say he was born after the funeral in Rocky 4 or whatever.
Yeah. I was like, because like in Hollywood, a couple years here and there doesn't
Yeah.
really make a difference. I mean, you have people that in their 20s playing high school kids in movies, so
Right.
It's funny you mentioned that Grudge Match because they actually do make a. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah, I finally did.
Well, where they made the joke like when he was about to hit the meat and Alan Arkin
Yeah.
was like, wait, we're just here to buy some meat. Why you gotta punch everything? I was like, that was kind of clever, but
Yeah.
yeah, like me and my wife and I watched that, and it was just kind of like it was. I wouldn't say it was a horrible movie, but I didn't like turn it off and go like, yes, that was awesome. Or,
Yeah.
everybody watched that. It was just kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
It was like Rocky versus Raging Bull is what they did the movie for. So,
Yeah, of course. It was
yeah.
the movie version of the discussion everybody's been having for 30 years, and they made it 30 years too late, probably.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny because that almost parallels the story of Rocky Balboa about how, Mason the Line Dixon wanted to fight him because it was some computer program of like, heavyweights in their heyday who would win, and Rocky won. So that insulted him so much that he had to prove he could beat him, but which doesn't make any sense because you're going to ask a boxer 20 years your senior to be like, hey, that's crap. Let's duke it out. He's like, but I'm 60.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I like the deep, like I was telling you before with Rocky dealing with his demons better than the storyline of him fighting Mason Dixon. It's just
Right.
like what stupid. Like
It's like in real life, like Floyd Mayweather being simulated against Muhammad Ali, and like they said Ali would have won, so he goes and pulls him out of his wheelchair or whatever. It's like,
oh my
we're
God.
fucking doing this. Stand still.
Terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Wow. Yeah. That would be kind of weird. But yeah, that's kind of basically the same thing. Jeez. Well, when's this supposed to come out? Do you have a release date yet?
They it's November 25th of this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I guess we don't have to do all these like crazy special effects and post production crap. I guess you can get a movie out faster than other things. I did hear a rumor that J.J. Abrams was trying to move up the release to like August or something like that of Star Wars. I'm like, nah, just take your time, please. I don't know. It was just a rumor. I don't really think there's any truth to that, but
I guess only time will tell.
yeah, right. 2. Was there another movie topic you want to talk about? I don't recall. I'm sorry.
I mean, there's always more to be said. Also referencing our last episode, I did see a news item today announcing that the cartoon DuckTales is going to be rebooted and released in 2017. So that's a thing.
This is my response. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Overall, I'm just sick and tired of the word reboot.
Oh yeah, I mean that's been a big topic between us and
Yeah.
these podcasts. It's like ugh, like a reboot, oh a remake, oh we're gonna reboot this. Like no, make something original.
Right.
Do something different. I mean, there's tons of ideas that haven't been made yet.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You would if you just paid attention solely to mainstream entertainment, you would be led to believe that, every idea has been thought of already. And all that can be done is to remake and recreate things that have already been made or, you know, discussed in the past. Um, I don't know. I mean, very rarely I feel like it can work, but more often than not, I mean, we end up with, the 2012 Knight Rider TV show.
Yeah, I don't even have anything to say about that. That was just yeah. Well, no,
um,
I know what you mean. There have been reboots that I think have worked. I mean, I thought it was a great idea to reboot Spider-Man because I hated the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, as I've mentioned a million times already. So it was refreshing to see that because it was anything that they could have done I thought would be better. But
right,
yeah, it's just I don't know. It's like the norm. All it is. It's not. Oh, let's give the fans what they want. It's like, what are we gonna do that's gonna make the most money? And like they're not doing it for the sake of what they should be doing it for.
right. But yeah, so there's yet another piece of our beloved childhood and entertainment history being tampered with, I guess.
Yep.
Well,
Ugh. This makes me mad. Like some things just grind my gears. Like that thing we talked about last time about the Muslims or whatever, and like that hate crime, and now reboots that does it too. That
right.
flips my switch. So I don't know. Well, speaking of movies, we had the Oscars just a couple days ago. That's always an exciting thing for me. I think movies have been a big part of our life, and they continue to be a major interest of both of us. I know and I just like to see who wins. And I know we talked about the Grammys before and getting inducted into Hall of Fame. How there's all this like it's like a political machine really, and it's who gets to decide, and people who are members vote, and whatever. But I like to just see who wins, and it kind of exposes me to other movies that I might not have wanted to see or even heard about,
Right.
until they came out. So what did you hear about it that you thought was pretty cool? Did you
Well, I
even
mean,
watch it? I don't even know if
I
you.
didn't watch any of it. I had to work. Um, and like every year, I feel like there's some exciting nominations, some exciting wins, some disappointing nominations and disappointing wins. I mean, it goes both ways. A lot
Yep.
of people, you know, it's to let me rephrase that. To a lot of people, it seems to matter a lot who the host is every year.
Mhm.
I don't give a shit about any of that because I don't watch the show as a show. I just hear about the aftermath or whatever.
Right.
Um, so it was Neil Patrick Harris this year. I have no comment really. Um, I feel like he's treading water in the territory of overexposure, sort of.
Mhm.
Not in the deep end yet or anything, but um, I think I don't know. I mean, I think he's cool in small doses, but something about him just doesn't really sit well with me, I guess. And I can't really put my finger on it, so sorry there, Doogie.
Well,
um,
that's the funny thing. You mentioned that, like I mean, from where he started and then going into obscurity to making like this raging comeback that he's made, it's pretty. I think it's pretty crazy.
oh yeah, it's admirable. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
begrudge him or anything. I'm
Yeah.
just
No.
not
Totally.
necessarily seeking him out. I
Mhm.
one of the things that for me that's kind of a constant every year with the Academy Awards is that there always seems to be this sort of last minute movie that comes out of nowhere that you've never heard of until like a week before the Oscars, and somehow it's nominated, and a lot of times it wins something. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know. I just noticed that quite often in the past. That kind of happens a lot. For me, that movie this year was the film Whiplash. I don't know. Have you heard about that?
Well, I watched the awards, so I did see J.K. Simmons win the award
Yeah.
for Best Supporting Actor for that. But yeah, I definitely, you're right. That's the one I have noticed that first, and secondly, yes, that is the one that I thought of. Like, where'd that movie come from? I've never even heard of this.
Right.
Even the movie that Julianne Moore won Best Actress for is called like Still Alice. I've never heard of that movie either. So
Yeah.
yeah, there were definitely those that showed up that I was like, I've never heard of this, but I guess that's what happens. I guess we're not cultured enough to get our full exposure to these, artsy picks or whatever. But I don't know.
I guess.
But yeah,
I don't know. I mean, I'm interested in Whiplash. It seems
Mhm.
like a good movie. It's, I guess, sort of relevant to me because it's about drumming, and I'm a drummer off and on, over the years. Um, I don't know. It looks like a really well done movie. I guess it gives me a little bit more respect for Miles Teller, who, as we mentioned before, was cast to be Reed Richards in the new Fantastic Four movie.
Right.
Um, I think J.K. Simmons is a great actor. I've liked him in pretty much everything he's ever done,
Yeah,
so
me too.
I'm sure he deserved it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I haven't. I don't think I've seen. I've seen maybe one or two of the movies that were nominated this year. Um, I know that we talked a little bit about the Grand Budapest Hotel last time, and I know that that
Mhm.
was tied with Birdman for most wins overall.
Mhm.
And I'm really happy about that because that deserves recognition across the board. Um, I really want to see Birdman. Didn't get a chance. I think it's fantastic that Michael Keaton was nominated. It would have been
Yeah.
awesome to see him win, but just to have him be nominated at this point in his career is just fucking great.
Right. Yeah, I was kind of pulling for Grand Budapest because of all the ones that were nominated for Best Picture, that's the only one I've seen so far. So that was my, biased pick for Best Picture. But it did. It won. Okay, I'll say they're major awards, they're really not major awards. I mean, it won like best like set production design, best costumes, best makeup.
Right.
I think it won. Did it win for cinematography? I can't remember.
It did.
But it didn't win any major categories when it came to like acting or directing or like screenplay or anything like that, which was a little disappointing. Actually, did it win screenplay? But you
Um,
probably have the list up there, don't you? I don't
I
remember.
do have the list. However, oh, I'm sorry. Spoke incorrectly. It was Birdman's cinematographer won, not
Okay.
Grand Budapest. Um, True. I'm looking at the list. Oh, here we go. No, Birdman won for screenplay too.
Original, yeah, because that was the original screenplay. Then the adapted one was some foreign film or something like that. It's called like Ida. Is that right? I can't remember. I'm just
No,
trying
that
to think about stuff.
that was Imitation Game.
Oh, adapted? It
Yeah.
was?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I
Um,
stand corrected.
but no, I mean, I agree that Grand Budapest deserved anything it was nominated for, but I'm not really surprised that it won in the categories it won because that was just a great looking movie too. That was beautiful. Everything about it
Yeah.
was just like, I don't know, these Wes Anderson movies, they're just like I don't even know really what I want to say. Like everything's tack sharp, everything's like perfect down to the last detail. So
Hmm.
I guess I'm not surprised they won visual awards.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's funny when I think of that movie, I think of purple for some reason. Like there was a lot of purple.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I
pinkish
kind of
purples and yeah.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when they were doing, they'll have someone come out and like, this movie was nominated, this movie was nominated, and they'll run some clips, and they ran a bunch of clips in a row where people were getting punched in the face in that movie. You know how like that one, like the way he had the camera angle, and like the fish just comes flying up and hits him in the face, and then yeah, they showed that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I was actually happy. You're right; it won a lot of stuff, and yeah, I was pulling for Michael Keaton. Um, but Eddie Redmayne won Best Actor for Theory of Everything, which I get. I kind of have a theory about that we can get into in a few minutes, but yeah, a lot of the movies were snubbed. American Sniper got snubbed pretty bad. I think it won for
Yes.
like best sound editing or something like that. No, I'm not gonna. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know how good it is. There's just controversy abound with this movie. I mean, it's swirling all over. And just today, the man that killed Chris Kyle, the American sniper, was actually convicted of murder, and he's going
Right.
to jail for life or something. What I don't know anything about the details of that. I know that he was suffering from PTSD when it happened, which is a pretty serious thing if you haven't gotten help for it. But I mean, I guess they found out he wasn't incompetent and they killed him. But whatever. So yeah, that movie got snubbed, much to some people's liking. Much to if you watch Fox News, they thought it was a travesty, of course. So whatever. Um, Actually, that's funny because I did see a clip about Fox and Friends. Fortunately, our friend Tucker Carlson was not on this episode. It was some other tool that filled in for him with Elizabeth Hasselbeck. They had Stacey Dash, as you probably remember, as being in the movie Clueless. What was her name in that movie? I don't remember.
Dion.
Dion. So she was on, and she said it was like she was embarrassed or it was a travesty that like when Patricia Arquette did her performance acceptance speech, she said something about how women need to be treated equally. We need wage equality, blah blah blah. And, the crowd went wild, and you see Meryl Streep and Jennifer Lopez who were sitting next to each other, which is a really odd combination. I like to think. They were like, yeah, they were like pointing at her and like cheering and stuff. And Stacey Dash said it was like a travesty that she would do that, and that they were making political statements and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's stupid, And then, of course, on the same show, they were like, "Oh, I can't believe American Sniper didn't win," and they're like, "It made $300 million, which was more than 7 of those other movies combined." And meh, I'm just like, shut up! Like, it didn't win because they didn't think it was, the quality of a movie to be considered, best picture. I don't know, whatever.
All right, I'm foaming at the
But,
mouth here, so let me just jump in real quick with a couple of words for this American Sniper topic. First of all, it's as to be expected from Fox News. That is idiocy.
Yep.
Under nowhere in the criteria for judging the best picture is the amount of money it makes. Number one. Number two. If they want to create a separate category called Best Propaganda Film, then by all means, American Sniper should have won. But Best Picture, no. Especially considering some of the other nominees in that category. It's it's infuriating that anybody would have legitimately expected that thing to win, based on ticket sales or based on, inciting patriotism based on erroneous information. So, I've seen a healthy chunk of it, not necessarily through approved means. Wink, wink. But
what are you talking about?
but yeah, it's in my opinion, I like Clint Eastwood a lot. I like a lot of his movies a lot. But this is garbage. Especially if you do any kind of research into the real story, the real person, the real goings on of not just Chris Kyle and his story, but the Iraq War as a whole. I just can't stomach it. So good.
Yeah. Well, no, that's that's a hot button for anybody, really.
Right.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing too. If you're going to sit there and cite ticket sales as a reason why it should be Best Picture, that's ridiculous too. Because if you're going to go with that logic, then okay, the Avengers should have won Best Picture that year. Iron Man 3 or whatever should have won. You know what I mean? Like, give me a break. Like, movies like that aren't going to win Best Picture because it's.
And I like those movies too. I think Avengers is right up there with the best superhero movies ever made. But should it have won an Oscar? Absolutely not.
No, of course not. Like that's like a joke to even like think of nominating a movie like that because like it's just not. I mean, I can't really. I wouldn't say that those other pictures are like necessarily better. Like I would like them better. But you know what I mean? Like it's not worthy of it's all computers. It's comic book characters for crying out loud. You know what I mean? It's just really weird. But
I mean, I agree. I think that it's possible that a comic book based film. I mean, one could argue roughly Birdman has its origins in that kind of. I mean, it's sort of roughly related to those concepts.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it parallels Michael Keaton's real life experience playing Batman.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was funny. I read an article about that. He said, actually, I sent it to you. I'm not sure if you read it, but it was a reporter for I can't remember what online newspaper I was looking at, but they were saying that people watch movies the wrong way and like they don't appreciate it for what they are. They look too deep into it.
Yeah.
And he said actually they mentioned an article someone wrote about how Birdman was too much like Michael Keaton's real life or something like that, and he was quoted as saying that article was definitely superficial. So I'm not sure if he really agrees with that to a point.
Yeah, I don't think it's a
if you look at it,
biography.
it's almost obvious, that because he was Batman, and there was all this stuff about that, and this is in this movie he's playing, he's an actor that played another superhero type character, so I see it, but yeah, it's just not saying that you're wrong. I'm just pointing out that
Yeah, I'm not. In no way am I saying that this is autobiographical or anything. But I think
yeah,
that
no
to
way.
ignore the parallels, at least satirically, between the two
Mhm.
experiences would be silly. But
Mhm.
also, another Batman related, Oscar related thing was, I fully support Heath Ledger winning for playing the Joker when he did.
Yep,
Um,
definitely.
there's a precedent there. I think it is possible. I mean, in my opinion, like I don't know. I mean, the first Superman movie in '78 was worthy of recognition,
Mm.
just because it was an across the board achievement at its time, and not just in. I mean, we're talking effects. We're talking um, for the genre. We're talking for the cast that was in there. Um, to this day, Christopher Reeve's portrayal of both Clark Kent and Superman is considered one of the greatest, balancing acts, and not just superhero movies, but any movies. Um,
Right.
but that caliber of superhero film is only going to come along, very rarely. So,
Mm.
but I mean, I agree with you that it's for the most part these, it'd be goofy to use money and popularity to judge, its merits for winning an Academy Award.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could kind of argue that that Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. I think, like you said, you mentioned Heath Ledger winning for Joker. I mean, I think you could have very well considered any of those movies to be, in the running for Best Picture because yeah, it's a superhero movie, but it's completely different than the flashy big budget production like the Avengers or something, And with Superman, I mean, that was the only comic book or only movie based from a comic book character I thought that even held up to anything that was done until Tim Burton's Batman came out,
Right.
So yeah, that was definitely worthy of some sort of achievement, that it received. So yeah,
I agree with all that.
but
Just think it's funny in a lot of ways. Birdman, whether they want to admit it directly or not, Birdman sort of ties in with all that and sort of kind of vindicates the superhero concept, in the context of the Academy Awards. So I think that's pretty
mhm.
cool.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's kind of a big win for the nerd out there,
that's
the,
essentially what I'm getting at. Yeah.
yeah, the nerd and us, we won finally. Superheroes, yay!
Right.
Oh man. So yeah, I want to tell you about why I thought Eddie Redmayne and Julianne Moore won this year. Because I think a lot of those performances were very critically acclaimed. I mean, Steve Carell was nominated for Best Actor, which is like crazy awesome because you only know Steve Carell is the goofy funny roles he does. I mean, he rarely does like a serious role. But I think the reason why those two actors won was because they portrayed a character that went through fundamental changes in their persona. And I'll explain. Like Eddie Redmayne won for portraying Stephen Hawking, the real life Stephen Hawking. And as he's got I'm not sure what disease he has, but he has a very debilitating degenerative disease where he's confined to a wheelchair and he can only speak through like a voice box. But he wasn't always like that. He was a normal functioning human being, as physically functioning, I should say. I mean, he's not. Stephen Hawking is just as smart as he used to be. He just has a physical impairment. He played a character that went from being a normal functioning human being to going through the stages of this disease. So I mean, it's not just he goes from one end of the spectrum to the other, he goes through the whole spectrum of like, him succumbing to it and then eventually being confined in the wheelchair. So I think his performance was, highlighted by that it wasn't just like he played a flat character the whole time.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the same thing with Julianne Moore. She played a character who started suffering from Alzheimer's disease. So you're talking about people that are, they've got to play basically 2 or 3 different characters at once. And I think that's why they gave him recognition for it. I mean, it's a very basic, analysis of that, but right. I think that's kind of why they were recognized this year and not other people. Which, I I haven't seen a lot of the movies either, so I don't know, the different layers of Michael Keaton's character in Birdman, or anything like that. So I think that's just basically from the outside looking in. I'm like, yeah, I can see why they won that. Like when they announced Eddie Redmayne, that was my pick for who was going to win anyway to begin with. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's ALS is what Stephen Hawking suffers from.
I should have known.
So I guess they probably should have dumped an ice bucket on Eddie Redmayne's head when he won the Oscar.
I'm sure he probably did at some point when they were doing those.
Probably
those things or whatever. But
they were probably shooting it around that time.
Indeed.
I'm not really familiar with what the Foxcatcher is about. The role that Steve Carell was nominated for.
It has something to do with a wrestler or something, I think. I'm not sure.
Then how did it escape my radar?
I think it was Greco-Roman wrestling, like Olympic-style wrestling, not professional.
I'm all for it. I'm a big Steve Carell fan, so that'd be cool to check that out. But, it's nice to see, someone like Steve Carell rise up in the serious acting ranks as quickly as he seems to have. Quick is relative. It's probably been at least 10 years, all told, from the time 40-Year-Old Virgin broke him wide to now. But I think Robin Williams probably would have liked it to have taken him 10 years instead of, 20.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, I think very few actors have been able to do that, where they're most of the time play a character that is funny to go to something that's like, really serious. And, like Robin Williams could do that with ease because he was like a master. And that's, my opinion, like, whatever. He was awesome. And, Steve Carell, like, as most of the roles you see him in are funny, weird comedies, right. But now he's doing a serious role. And you look at the contrast, look at like someone like Jim Carrey, who in his career was always like that, and then he's had like a marginal success being a serious actor because like I don't think people take what he does seriously, or he's not picking the roles that I think would accentuate his acting ability. So I think a lot of times you look at that and say like, it didn't work for him serious, he's got to keep doing funny stuff. But I think it's really hard to do that too. So I think even in that is worthy of mention, and at least he got even getting a nomination is like a huge achievement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every movie he's on, you're going to see Academy Award nominee Steve Carell.
Now I'm just looking at the list, and that's all I can think of. Like, it's going to be really weird to see Academy Award nominee Emma Stone.
Oh, I know, right?
Bradley Cooper, all these people.
Well, it wasn't Ed Norton nominated for his role in that movie too, in Birdman. That apparently that movie brought the best out of everybody.
Right.
Like holy crap.
I'm going to, for some reason they split up the supporting roles are at the top of the page and the main roles I guess are at the bottom, which is a weird way to list them out here. So, but yeah, a lot of nominations for that movie. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Edward Norton for Birdman. So we had him, we had Emma Stone, we had Michael Keaton, all nominated for their acting performances, and then all the other nominations like the screenplay and the cinematography and all those as well. That's wow. It's pretty impressive.
Yep, definitely can't wait till that comes out. I gotta rent it.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh shizzle.
Isn't this Julianne Moore's first win? I know she's been nominated before.
Yeah, I was gonna say I know she's been nominated. I'm not sure if she has won for. Well, I think she's won things that weren't Academy Awards, but I'm not really sure. Perhaps that's something we can look up now too, if you
well, I
want.
feel like if this is her first Academy Award win, it kind of would probably invite a lot of people to sort of lump her in with the the people who I don't. I mean, look, I haven't seen this movie, Still Alice or whatever. I'm sure it was a worthy performance, but a lot of times, in her case, when people are nominated multiple times and then sort of win later in their career, um, they sort of get labeled. They're looked at as like the Academy's only trying to make up for past errors or whatever. Kind of like the way
Yeah.
Beck's win this year at the Grammys was perceived.
Yeah. Well, she does have. Yeah, she had a bunch of other nominees. She was nominated uh, Best Actress Leading Role for Far From Heaven, 2002. Best Actress in a Supporting Role for The Hours in 2002. Best Actress in a Leading Role for The End of the Affair in 99. And then for Best Supporting Actress for Boogie Nights in 97.
Right.
Um, well, actually, she won the Golden Globe for Best Actress this year, too. She won in 2003 for a miniseries performance. Yeah, so she's won some other awards, but yeah, that's the only Academy Award she's won.
Yeah.
But she's been nominated for a bunch of stuff though.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you can't really say that she's had any lack of like, what am I looking for? Like
recognition.
exposure, I guess. But yeah,
Well, I mean, yeah, she's certainly been recognized. I mean, 5 nominations is absolutely nothing to sneeze at. But yeah, so winning now, I don't know. I haven't really come across anything yet, and maybe I'm just framing it that way. But I could see how it would become her win could be framed in that context.
yeah. Well, and she's been in a lot of stuff I like too. She
Yeah.
was in The Big Lebowski. She was in Children of Men.
Yep.
That was a pretty decent flick, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. I think she's awesome. I think she deserves,
Hmm.
the win. I can't say she deserves it for that film or not, but I'm sure she does. So yeah, I'm glad it wasn't. I'll just say I'm glad it wasn't Reese Witherspoon. No.
Well, they were playing that role up like the people have been talking about that like all year.
Yeah.
Her role in that movie. So I was actually surprised that she didn't get it, just because everybody was freaking talking about it. I mean, I don't know, I didn't see it,
Yeah, I didn't see it either. But all I can say is fuck Reese Witherspoon.
but
Especially,
what do you not like about her? Well, what's wrong with her? I don't know.
well, she's widely regarded for being an asshole behind the scenes.
Oh, really?
And I just, I haven't seen like a slew of Reese Witherspoon movies, but I've seen enough to feel like there's you're gonna put her. She does not belong in the same acting conversation skill wise as someone like Julianne Moore or Marion Cotillard, who was also a nominee this year. Um,
Yeah, I really like the role she's been in that I've seen too.
yeah, she's great, and
Yeah.
she's actually a past winner anyway. So I mean, you know, there's no love lost there. But someone like Reese Witherspoon, I'm sorry, maybe I'm a dick for saying this, but she should just consider herself lucky and honored to have been listed on the same, bill or, list for consideration as people like that,
Hmm.
in my
Yeah, I
opinion.
can't remember really a lot of. Yeah, no, that's fine. I can't really remember her in a lot of things. I mean, I remember she was in that movie Cruel Intentions.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously, she was in that. What's the one where she was like kind of a ditz, but Legally Blonde or something?
Yeah.
I remember that role. That one with Vince Vaughn about Christmas. It's like Four Christmases or something like that. Yeah, when I think of her, I don't really think of like. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to like make fun of her or anything.
No,
I'm
this
just
is.
being. I'm just being honest.
It's funny because these are her films. This is her body of work.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't recall anything else. I mean, it's really hard for me to think of anything else. Like what I've seen.
The best thing
Yeah.
I think I've seen her in would have to be Election.
Oh yeah, that was a great movie. Matthew Broderick, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was like one of her early roles. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, you always go back to that. It's like, yeah, that good movie she was in. Yeah, that was like one of her early roles before she started to suck.
Right.
Like she didn't know any better. Yeah, so she actually did good. Did a
That
good
that was
job.
uh that was pre Sweet Home Alabama.
You saw that, didn't you?
I fucking did. Let me tell you
I
what,
bet.
she didn't deserve an Oscar for it.
Okay. Well, I could have told you that without even watching it. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about with that. I
Oh,
mean, there's
bef-
yeah,
well, before we move on, I did want to mention Lady Gaga's performance. What
yeah.
do
Do
you
you think
think?
that was good? Thought it was pretty good.
I mean, I've been a fan of her since her first album.
Mm.
Obviously, there's things to criticize and scratch your head over along the way from then till now, but um, it annoys me, I have to say, to see like in the media like basically the collective response of like, oh my god, I didn't know she could sing normally, or like she could, you know, she could sing that
Mm.
type of music or whatever. Like, I don't know, if you're not like complete idiot, then you can recognize when people are doing things for attention, for theatricality, for, you know, entertainment value. And you can recognize that there's something underneath that. Um, Maybe not everybody's obsessive about people that they like as me. So like I've looked into her background before. There's stuff on YouTube of her before she was Lady Gaga, like singing and playing piano and everything. Um, she's classically trained. She is legitimately vocally talented, perhaps as good, if not better, as we've seen in a long time, certainly of her generation. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, that her performance on the Oscars was fucking insane. Just
Yeah.
fantastic across the board.
Well, I never would have questioned like her singing ability. I mean, she is a platinum selling pop star, so she can obviously sing, but you're just not used to hearing that. And I think that it definitely caught me off guard that she did that. Like
Yeah,
when they were saying Lady Gaga was going to perform, I was like, what is she going to perform? I was thinking like, what have I heard recently? I don't. Why would she do that? Did she do a movie? I didn't know what she was going to do, and it completely caught me off guard. And yeah, I thought it was like phenomenal. I was
yeah,
just like, what? That was amazing. The funny thing was, we were sitting there on the couch, and when she kept like raising her arm up,
yeah. I did.
as she's
That was
saying
a
it, and
little
you can see
weird.
that trumpet tattooed. Well, I was talking about the trumpet, and it was just kind of weird seeing like this tattooed woman singing, Julie Andrews songs, which was just
Yeah,
kind of like a weird juxtaposition. You know what I mean? But it was, I mean, I didn't care, but it was just like, that's funny. She's singing,
right.
my favorite things, and she's got tattoos all over. But whatever.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's that little moment of recognizing that. But I think it's nice to see that society is in a place where that can happen. Um,
Yeah,
I, d-
totally.
I do feel like, as good as it was, I couldn't help but feel like, in some way, um, I don't know, at times she was almost doing a Julie Andrews impression with her voice,
Hmm.
just because the tone of her voice was so different than her normal singing style. Like, it didn't even sound like if I had closed my eyes and you told me that was Lady Gaga, I would have never been able to recognize it, which
Yeah.
is interesting.
Uh-huh.
But I think it also speaks to her abilities to be able to sing that well in a totally different voice too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think like what you said, I mean, those songs were written for a musical, you
Right.
know, and the stuff that she sings, if she writes it or not, is meant to be a popular song and to sell records. You know what I'm saying? So I think, obviously, that. I'm not trying to like, school you here on what we're talking about, but no, I mean, I think you're right. Like, I would not have recognized her either, and I think it's just because it's the type of song. I don't really think. Yeah, I know how like you said, part of you kind of feels like she was impersonating her. I think it's just because you're not used to hearing her sing stuff like that, like real composed music, not like pop
Right.
music, So I get that totally. Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it sounded like normal, normal Lady Gaga, but yeah,
Well,
it definitely caught me off guard. But you're right. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard not to make that. Of course, when you're used to hearing, I mean, for crying out loud, we sang Sound of Music songs in elementary school music class. We
right.
watched the freaking movie. So, like, yeah, I know And Mary Poppins, like one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. Like I know Julie Andrews, I know what she sounds like. So yeah, it's almost hard not to even compare or say Lady Gaga, like, oh, comparing the two, like, oh, she's doing it better. Does she sound like her? It's Julie Andrews. Like she can't do that. It's Julie Andrews, but yeah, she can. She's doing really good. You're just like really confused in your brain. It's like there's nostalgia. There's like your technical know-how. There's like, is this good or not? You know what I mean? There's crazy stuff going on in your head when you see stuff like that. So
I would say that your reaction, all the things you just described, was probably the reaction in the brains of the viewing public collectively as well.
Yeah.
So
especially if you're an older person that has no idea or has any desire to listen to Lady Gaga's music, like us, when like you said, like when we first heard her, like, wow, this is new, this is different, this is great, and then you kind of scratch your head at some song choices that she's done, and
right.
We were exposed to her in her normal environment, if you will. But yeah, I think like a lot of older people that like have no interest in listening to Lady Gaga were probably like, what? Like that's I guess that's the reaction you want. So
I did also read that, like I said, she's already obviously a great singer and everything. But apparently in preparation for this performance, she spent 6 months with a vocal coach just nailing down this particular style just to leave no stone unturned. So that's fucking respectable as well.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna put the time and effort into it by all means. That's great.
Yeah. But I just didn't want that to go unrecognized on this show, so there it is.
Yeah, good on you. Well, you're more the music guy anyway than I am. I mean, compared to me.
Right. Oh, I didn't really say anything about Patricia Arquette, so just real quick, I'll say that, in my opinion, every single Oscars telecast every year has its one moment where somebody gets up there and takes a sort of political stand and uses it as their forum for something along those lines, and that was just this year's version of it. It seems to, I don't know if it's every single year, but it seems to happen often enough to not really be a surprise anymore. So it is what it is. I mean, it's a legitimate issue.
Oh, totally.
Is that necessarily the right forum for going into it? I don't know. I mean, she's allowed to say whatever she wants, so whatever. I mean, Eddie Murphy famously in 1988 got up there and basically did the same thing, except his gripe was he was railing against what he felt to be the Academy's lack of recognition for black actors. So, I mean, it has a history anyway of hot button issues during speeches.
Well, yeah, they're relevant issues of our time,
right?
And even because John Legend and Common won for Best Song for that song Glory from Selma, and they get up there and they did the same thing, but you know what? It's a relevant issue right now. So like, I mean, why would you even comment on it? Like, they have every right to say that, and you know what? They're 100% right. Both them and Patricia Arquette, they are. Right. You can be some douchebag political pundit that's not going to recognize this kind of stuff, but they, and say like, oh, that's I can't believe she did that. That's not a place to do that. It's totally a place to do it, because Hollywood, Hollywood's pretty liberal, so you can say whatever you want, and like you're really not going to get too much flack from at least your peers, for doing something like that. And of course, it's funny because like a movie like Selma comes out now when the whole race issue is huge right now with certain things that have happened. I mean, I'm not saying it's huge with everything that's going on, but it's like they have every right to say what they did, and they were and I agree completely with everything they said. Wage equality for women. We're still in this society that's still somewhat misogynistic. Like you look at like advertisement and like the sexual objectification of women in just advertising. It's prevalent. It's everywhere. And it's not, it hurts people, right. And the same thing with all these other social issues that are going on, bring it up, go right ahead. Like that whole movie, Selma, and that whole song are about that. And it's like, you know what, if you say it, man, it's like sing it, sister, while you're sitting there, right. Like, come on, like, good for you. Yeah. And I'm glad they won, and I'm glad they got to get up there and say what they wanted to. Maybe the millions of people that are watching it are like, maybe I'm thinking about this the wrong way, when they hear people say that stuff. And then when people say that and people are cheering them on, I mean, after they sang that song, I mean, you have people crying in the audience after hearing that performance of that song. I'm like, that moves people that much. Maybe there's something to that,
Right.
So that's my advice. I didn't really give you any advice. Whatever. I'm having one of those days where like I feel like I can articulate and then I just say something dumb, but whatever.
Well, I think you just described the human condition, sir.
Yeah.
Quit
Do you want
peeling
to just
back the
stop it right
curtain, man.
here? Yeah.
Do we have anything else like burning a hole in our mind pocket?
Not really. I've been reading a lot of cool articles on the Intercept that are bringing to light some things.
Oh, you know
that
what? Before
Shit.
What?
No, go ahead. Were you gonna say the same thing? I don't know.
What about the Oscars?
Yeah.
Probably the documentary win.
Yes, damn it.
Yeah.
He was there. Our journalistic hero was there. I was like, that's Glenn Greenwald.
Well, he's partners with Laura Poitras, who was technically the winner. Yeah. It's weird. Like, I'm sure he was involved in the making of that documentary. I mean, he's her journalistic partner and everything. He's there on stage holding the award, but yet he's not listed under the credited winners.
No, I noticed that too because it was like her and a couple other people, and then he walked up there. But I know, I'm sure you know as well too. Edward Snowden, Edward Snowden contacted them first before anybody else,
right?
Because he knew who they were, and he like saw Laura Poitras. How you say it?
Poitras.
Poitras, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm butchering that.
That's all right. I watched a lot of
another little, yeah. Yeah, no, you're more linguistically masterful than I am anyway. So, but he saw like a documentary that she did. That's why he contacted her first. So yeah, and the same thing that they use that as another way to make a political statement too about how this surveillance is like basically a slap in the face to democracy. It's not right. But yeah, I know because Glenn Greenwald and Jeremy Scahill are the co-founders of the Intercept to begin with, and
right.
I guess like she was put on some like terrorism watch list because she made that documentary about the Iraq War in 2006. So she was getting accosted every time that she came into the country until she finally told some journalist about it, and they blew up and they stopped stopping her when she came through the airports and stuff like that, which is ridiculous. Like, she's a documentary filmmaker,
right?
Like, get off of it, like. Ugh. But yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that they won. I was excited, and then I was gonna say Glenn Greenwald was there too. I'm like, hey, he's not listed. Like, what's he doing? Like
he's standing up there looking shifty, like the men in black suits could come and grab him at any moment.
Well, that's the thing. I'm sure that people watch him, in the government because of what he says. He doesn't even. He lives in Brazil.
Yeah,
like he won't live here because like we don't have marriage equality universal.
Right.
So. But whatever.
I'm sure every time he comes to America, it's a nightmare too.
Yeah, I know. They're like, oh, Glenn Greenwald, how can we accost you for making fun of our administration or something? It's stupid. He's a freaking journalist. Like, he's just reporting what he sees, like, give him a break.
I don't know. You saying The Intercept reminded me that I wanted to mention that too, and I forgot all about it.
I can't believe I forgot, because that's like usually like one of my, in the forefront of my mind is like political issues or social issues. And it's like, Citizen 4, forgot about that. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, his book about that is in our local library. I'm gonna check that out.
Sweet.
Read it sometime. Yeah.
You know what? I gotta say, I miss. Like I've gone to the Cortland Library one time in my life. Last, or maybe it was 2013, to use their computer to sign up for unemployment after I got terminated from Blue Burrito. They laid me off.
Sure.
I've never actually used it to check out a book or anything. It seems kind of nice, but I don't know. I mean, I was gonna say I miss having a really nice public library around. I guess maybe I've been spoiled. The one in Beacon was great. I used to go there a lot, and then the one in Westchester, Pennsylvania, was fucking like next level compared to the Beacon ones. That was amazing. So I don't know. I haven't. It's something that I regret not taking advantage of in recent years.
Yeah. Well, the Cortland Library, does it still have that same guy that runs it, or is he retired now?
It might
you know who I'm talking about? His name was like Mr. Eddie or something like that.
It might be retired. When I went in there, it was all women.
Mm.
It was a crotchety old woman who was not
Figures.
necessarily user friendly towards me.
Yeah, what is it with like librarians being like that?
I
Like
don't
I kind of
know.
see that everywhere because we have pretty decent libraries here. Like the one in Saratoga is good. We actually have one in Burr Hills, Boston Lake, and that's actually pretty. I mean, it's smaller, but it's still pretty nice. Like it's clean. They have a lot of stuff. They have computers, whatever. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's just Saratoga library is pretty nice. I mean, obviously, when you come to visit me up here, like why would we go to a library or why would you have ever been there? But yeah, what is it like? It's like all these like women, like you ask them a question, it's like they're get pissed off, they have to do their job. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you went to college, got like a BS degree, and like, I mean, bullshit, not
Oh, I
bachelor
was
of
gonna say, of
science.
course you mean Bachelor's of Science.
Beat you to that one, pal. But no, like they get a BS degree to
Right.
like sit around and catalog books all day, and then you're gonna get pissed at me because you're making like 40,000 a year putting books on a shelf.
Right.
Shut up, do
Yeah,
your
they're
job.
just they're absolutely overtly hostile. Whenever I mean, it's not even like I've been to the counter 400 times and I'm really annoying. It's like I walk in the door to a library I've never been into in my life and I ask a question and it's like I get that fucking glare over the top of her glasses, that classic like annoyed teacher thing. They look up at you over their glasses and it's like, Jesus fucking Christ, you're judging me already?
That's like cliche in real life right
Yeah.
there. I mean, it's not it's not really a cliche, I guess, but
It's it's cliche because it's true.
yeah, no, right,
And the
whatever.
definitely
All right,
aren't the sexy librarian type either.
never seen one in my entire life.
Me either.
Sorry, they don't exist.
I'm starting to think so. Bummer. Hey, it's your friend Claude. Make sure you check out part 2 of our landmark 10th episode by clicking the link that says episode 10 part 2 or some such similar thing. All right, see you then.